Hello, I'm Silver. We will learn about weather forecasting. Weather forecasting is the application of science and technology to predict the conditions of the atmosphere for a given location and time. People have attempted to predict the weather informally for millennia and formally since the 19th century. Weather forecasts are made by collecting quantitative data about the current state of the atmosphere at a given place and using meteorology to project how the atmosphere will change. If you want to see this technique for the weather forecasting, you can skip this story. Back in the ancient times of 650 BC, the Babylonians predicted the weather from cloud patterns as well as astrology. Then Aristotle described weather patterns in Meteorologica in about 350 BC. Later, Theophrastus compiled a book on weather forecasting, called the Book of Signs. Chinese weather prediction lore extends at least as far back as 300 BC, which was also around the same time ancient Indian astronomers developed weather prediction methods. In New Testament times, Jesus deciphers his words by saying about the weather pattern, "When evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning, today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast." You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. For modern methods using electronic telegraph in 1835, the fastest that distant weather reports could travel was around 160 kilometers per day, but was more typically 60 to 120 kilometers per day whether by land or by sea. This picture tells you about the sinking of Royal Charter, was completely wrecked. In late October 1859, Royal Charter was returning to Liverpool from Melbourne, her complement of about 371 passengers, with a crew of about 112 and some other company employees, included many gold miners, some of whom had struck it rich at the diggings in Australia and were carrying large sums of gold about their persons. A consignment of gold was also being carried as cargo. That happened when the ship was initially grounded on a sandbank, but in the early morning of the 26th the rising tide drove her onto the rocks at a point just north of Moelfra at Porthelurth on the north coast of Anglesey. Battered against the rocks by huge waves whipped up by winds of over 100 miles per hour, she quickly broke up. Soon, the aftermath of the disaster is described by Charles Dickens in The Uncommercial Traveller in the churchyard of St. Galgo's Church, Lonelgo. Dickens gave a vivid illustration of the force of the gale, deciphering his words. "So tremendous had the force of the sea been when it broke the ship, that it had beaten one great ingot of gold, deep into a strong and heavy piece of her solid iron work, in which also several loose sovereigns that the ingot had swept in before it, had been found, as firmly embedded as though the iron had been liquid when they were forced there." This is just a story of a ship sinking. Typically it is like a Titanic. Other related story of a ship is for the pirates, like Pirates of the Caribbean that you might have watched this film. Back in the modern world, it is based mainly upon changes in barometric pressure, current weather conditions, and sky condition or cloud cover. Weather forecasting now relies on computer-based models that take many atmospheric factors into account. Or in the news break during broadcasting, in each day for one of the option of each weather. First, there can be a clear weather as well as sunny, depending on its temperature level. It can be quite warm, at around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Secondly, there can be cloudy depending on its temperature level. It can be quite humid at around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Thirdly, there can be a chance of rain, depending on its precipitation level. The temperatures would soon be heading down to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It can be a thunderstorm as well around at evening or night. Fourth, there can be a wind pressure, depending on its speeds and its direction, either north, east, south, or west. Air under high pressure moves toward areas of low pressure. The greater the difference in pressure, the faster the air flows. If the speed of a wind is dangerously high, we call as a hurricane. It would damage trees and power lines. It would blow roofs of a house and other actions. This can be compared by a cyclone or tornado. Fifth, there can be fog as well as reducing its visibility. It's a visible aerosol consisting of tiny water droplets or ice crystals suspended in the air at or near the Earth's surface. When this happens, the fog is heavily influenced by nearby bodies of water, topography, and wind conditions. It has affected many human activities, such as shipping, travel, and warfare. And sixth, snowfall, depending on its temperatures. In Canada and United States, the temperatures lower to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 0 degrees Celsius. Snow forms when tiny ice crystals in clouds stick together to become snowflakes. If enough crystals stick together, they'll become heavy enough to fall to the ground. In some coldest regions like North and South Pole, people could suffer from frostbites. At least many woolen clothes are required to wear, so people must be very alert to watch the weather forecasting on news channels the reporters can schedule for today and tomorrow. That's how the weather forecasting works. Like, comment, and subscribe now.